Bonjour, welcome back to this Football Manager 2020 experiment. This is part 3, so if you've missed parts 1 and 2, make sure you go and check them out first. So in this part 3, I thought I'd holiday 10 years into the future, and we're going to have a look at 2 5-year chunks. It's now 2030, 5 years after you left me in part 2, and as you can see, there's a familiar top 4 there. Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Arsenal. Chelsea and Spurs are also back into the top flight. Liverpool have won 4 of the last 6 titles. Man United have won 2. So, yeah, we've got to the point in the experiment where we're seeing a familiar Premier League. Newcastle, Southampton also in the top flight, with Crystal Palace just getting relegated this year. But it is still very different. We've got the likes of Southport and Kettering qualifying for Europe. Barnet, Sunderland are back in the Premier League. Rotherham, Gateshead, Farsley, Hemel Hempstead, Dorking, Concord Rangers and Hungerford have gone down this season. But there's a few teams that have established themselves as Premier League teams, which I just think is brilliant. I'm just going to go back to the first season of this particular part 3, which was the 2025-26 season. Man United won the league at the first attempt, but it's still a very different looking Premier League because there's only 4 traditional Premier League teams in the top flight at this point. But then as we progress through, Chelsea and Spurs get into the top flight. Spurs look like they're going to be a team that finish in the bottom half of the Premier League by the looks of it. Kettering and Gateshead still qualifying. Southport finishing above Man City to qualify for the Champions League, assuming they've managed to get back the 4 places for Champions League. I don't know. And then the following year, we saw Farsley finish in the top 4. This is brilliant. Dorking up there as well in 6th place. Spurs definitely improved that year. The following season, it's a more traditional looking top 4. Farsley and Southport qualifying for Europe though, which is great. And Southampton are back in the Premier League at this point. Liverpool champions again the following year, but Southport and Kettering doing well once again. So that's this season, of course. So, the big teams, Liverpool, still got Klopp in charge, 5-star reputation team. Man City, 4.5-star, Diego Simeone in charge these days. Man United still have Solskjaer in charge. And Arsenal have Eric Ten Hag in charge of the club. So Emery has left. Chelsea have John Terry, by the way. That's brilliant. What's his career been like? He has been around a lot. So he started at Bromley, moved to Fleetwood, MK Dons, Swindon, Derby and Chelsea. So he's become a good manager in time. He's now 49 years old, but some of these teams, of course, Derby currently in League 2, so he was managing in the lower leagues, Swindon in League 1, so Chelsea is his first Premier League team, I think, by the looks of it. Although Bromley started in League 2. Oh, it's fascinating. I like these sort of mini journeys that we see from managers. So Southport, they're a 4-star reputation team now. I imagine they've still got plenty of money. They seem to be the most successful team, I think, from this experiment, from the non-traditional Premier League teams. This is the squad that they have. They've got Kepa in goal. He's 35 now, moved for £12.75 million from Barnet, who signed him on a free from Chelsea a few years ago. Obviously, there's loads of regions at this point, but Ben Chilwell in the team, 33 years old, signed for £14.75 million a few years ago. The England team, what does it consist of now? I mean, Andre Villas-Boas is in charge. That's a blast from the past. He's come back into management. Look at his journey. I mean, he was at Zenit and managed in China, of course, in real life, and then moved to Marseille on the game before moving to Barnet, and now England manager. Of course, Barnet have done very well. They're in the Premier League, and they've spent the entirety of their time in the Premier League since getting up from League 1. So that's pretty random. We just look at the top clubs, reputation-wise. Farsley are the highest of the non-traditional Premier League teams. Sami Saiz is in charge. This is just so random at this point, and you get to about 2030, all the real-life players becoming managers. Kettering up there, Gateshead up there. You can see the rest. So there's a real mix there. If we look at the national team, though, and the players involved, so, yeah, it's big teams, really, but we've got a Farsley player in there, Aaron Ramsdale, playing for Farsley. Ben Chilwell playing for Southport, of course, and Freddie Woodman playing for Rotherham. I think in last year's experiment we saw a bit more variety. I think that the clubs have got up. I mean, every year there's a couple of clubs that rise to the top straight away, but sometimes we see the odd club get stuck in the Championship. So we'll have a look at the Championship in a second. Premier League, by the way, is third on the reputation list. If we look at the Nation Club coefficients, England at the top, so England are back to the top. At one point they were down here in 6th. They're back at the top with 4 places going directly into the group stage, 2 going directly into the Euro Cup group stage, and then you've got the Euro Cup 2 as well. So let's have a look at the Champions League. Can't click on it. Oh, Porto have won it. I mean, Porto have won it 3 times. They've been dominant. Really quite random. Inzaghi in charge. Liverpool have managed to win it though again. Of course, they won it in 2022 whilst playing in the National League or League 2 or something. And now they've managed to win it again after getting back to the Premier League, beating Lyon in the final. We've also done very well looking at that. So yeah, I think Liverpool's success has enabled England to climb back to the top of the coefficients. We go down to the Euro Cup. We've seen Man City and Man United win this competition, but Farsley reached the final, which is fantastic. I love that. Let's just look at the previous final then. 2-0 win for Man City against Farsley. Oh, imagine if Farsley had won this. That would have been brilliant. Just wasn't quite to be for them. They've had a very successful time. They've always been in the top 10, haven't they? Apart from this season. This is the first season they haven't managed to get into the top 10 of the Premier League. So I hope they don't drop off now after this point. If we just look at transfers quickly, it's kind of a bit irrelevant at this point because we've got the big boys back in there, and we don't. Kettering signed a player for 28.5 million, but no surprises at this stage really. Jamie Vardy who was he managing? Crystal Palace. He's in charge of Leicester and St Albans and Halifax. Amazing. There's Frank Lampard. He's unemployed as well. He's most recently managed Farsley. Didn't last long at all. So Farsley ramped through the managers. Probably because of their poor season this year, I suppose. They've had quite a lot of managers, I suppose. What's going on with the stadiums, I hear you ask? Or maybe not. Maybe you're not bothered. I'm trying to get back. Here we go. Stadiums. So, Barnet is still playing at Selhurst Park. Hurry up and build a stadium. We've got Southport with that rather, pretty decent-sized stadium. And most clubs have okay-sized stadiums. But they need to be getting bigger, don't they, if they want to compete with these guys up the top. Let's go down to the Championship then. So this is what's happened basically. So we've seen in recent years Chelsea and Hemel Hempstead go up, Hungerford and Tonbridge, Concord Rangers and Southampton. So it's not just been 2 Premier League teams at the same time. Spurs did go up via the playoffs, but we saw Hemel Hempstead finish above Spurs a few seasons ago. Most recently West Ham have lost the playoff final against Weymouth 2-1. Let's just look at the league table and go back a few years, back to 2025-26. I'll quickly skip through, but you can see all the teams in here. Chelmsford City still in the middle, which is great to see. Relegated the following year. I spoke far too soon there. That's a bit unfortunate. So they're down in League One now. After many years of finishing solidly in the middle of the Premier League, they've been relegated, and I won't be surprised if they completely flop now. Concord Rangers finishing above Southampton. That's great to see, isn't it? Wolves stuck in the Championship here. They've not managed to get promoted at this point. Newcastle and Crystal Palace went up the following year. Wolves dropped down to 16th. So there's definitely a few Premier League teams that are going to get stuck, I think. West Ham and Wolves currently, and Everton, all stuck in the Championship. So Everton have done quite well in the end after going into administration in that second season. Looking at the stadiums, obviously West Ham in the biggest, but we've got Everton and Wolves, and Forest Green have expanded to 25,350. That's great. Aldershot have a big stadium. Wilstone, they're playing at Watford Stadium, aren't they? Down to League One then. What's happened in recent years? Those are the past winners, runners-up, playoff winners, etc. So you can have a look at that. You can pause the video if you want to. But we'll just have a look at the most recent seasons and click through. So Newcastle won the league that year. Hampton and Richmond went up with them. That's great to see. Following season, Wolves, Swindon and Walsall went up. You'll see some teams dropping down. I mean, what's happened to Exeter? They've been a bit of a yo-yo club over the last 3 seasons. This was 2027-28 season. 2028-29 season, Everton and West Ham both went up together to the Championship. Curzon Ashton qualified for the Champions League in that first season. They got relegated 3 times to League 2, back to League 1 though. Maybe they're on the rise again. Perhaps they've been a bit of a slow burner. I mean, they've got tons of money for a League One club. They've just not spent it over the years, have they? Look at that. Almost £600,000 wage budget in League One with a bank balance of 117 million. They've been saving it for a rainy day. They're going to rise back, surely, with that money that they have. They have to, don't they? Slough, another team that qualified for the Champions League in that first season. Are they in a similar position? Let's have a look. Yeah, 59 million. Very good wage budget for this level. If we compare it with a team that hasn't been in the top flight, let's say Oldham, who started in They did, oh yeah, League Two they started in. So what sort of money do they have? 1.7 million, £74,000 wage budget. That's the difference there. So the teams that started in the Premier League have tons of money, but for whatever reason, probably because of their reputation, they've not really spent it. And I mean, look at Slough. They've been in League One for years, despite having all that money. Just use it, for goodness sake. They just have no intelligence, do they? Most recent season then, this is what happened. Watford, Brighton and Burnley went up. So Curzon once again missing out. Slough getting to the playoffs and missing out again as well. Just not quite good enough. But surely they get back up to the Championship with all that money that they have. League Two, let's go back to the start. So Wolves, Everton, Leyton Orient, Curzon. So Curzon Ashton, yeah, they dropped to League Two. They managed to get up in this season. And then the following year, this is what happened. 2027-28 season, Watford and West Ham going up together. 28-29 season. And then the most recent season, Derby and Swansea going up with Wrexham and Dulwich Hamlet. But I'm sure you're most interested in seeing who is in the National League these days. So let's go down and have a look. The most recent winners and runners-up, or playoff winners, that's what matters, because there's only two teams that go up, of course. So it is Premier League and Championship clubs going up, as you would expect. I'll just quickly whiz through. You can pause the video if you want to have a look at the tables in more detail. But in the most recent season, this is what's happened. So we've still got Middlesbrough in the National League in 2030 with Leeds, West Brom, Blackburn, Birmingham, loads of Championship clubs here, and Sheffield United, a real-life Premier League club, stuck here with Norwich as well. So two Premier League clubs stuck in the National League, as you can see there. Plenty of Championship clubs as well. And we've seen Fulham get relegated to the National League South this season. Let's go down to the National League North, where Stoke are champions. Leicester are still stuck in the National League North. What on earth is happening? They're still a 3-star reputation team. I'm surprised about that. Money-wise, they're in trouble. They've only got £1.2 million, but still, that's a lot of money in the bank at this level. And they still have a huge wage budget, £233,000. They don't have a sugar daddy anymore. They must have different owners. Yeah. Got rid of their owners. If we look at the stadium, they're still playing at King Power Stadium, but eventually, if they get stuck at this level, we might see them downgrade the stadium, because surely they're not filling it. Who would have thought that Leicester would be the team that would get stuck down here, considering how well they've done in real life? But that's what's happened, and they're certainly not filling the stadium, but it's still very impressive attendance records at this level, so that's probably helping them. Well, it's definitely helping them financially and keeping them afloat. But they just keep missing out, don't they? Don't understand how they keep missing out, because look, in recent years they've been finishing towards the top of the table every year. They've just bottled it. They're 1 point behind Stoke this season. They've actually lost less games, so surely they're going to go up at some point. I think they're the only Premier League team stuck here. By the way, so we've still got Stoke, Hull, Aston Villa. Aston Villa even in an even worse position, but they did get back up to the National League. However, relegated again last season. They're 1.5-star regional reputation. They have been destroyed by Leicester City. Don't know how they've sustained themselves with their reputation. Aston Villa in trouble, but they do have more money. They have £6.7 million, but much less wage budget. I don't know if they've sold players recently for quite a bit of money. They might still have a decent youth academy. Let's look at their facilities. Adequate youth recruitment. Poor training facilities. Everything's gone downhill for Aston Villa. Poor training facilities, below average youth facilities, and it's rented. It's not looking good for Aston Villa at all. On their first home game of the season, 22,000. So they're still getting similar attendances to Leicester, which surprises me because of their reputation being so low. But there we go. They're able to keep themselves afloat with the high attendances, but it's really not gone well for Aston Villa and Leicester in this experiment, has it? Let's go down to the National League South then. These are the most recent winners and playoff winners, and these are the most recent league tables. So I'll just quickly skip through, and then we can see who's stuck at this level still in 2030. So Brentford and Dartford have just been promoted. Yeah, the National League South is much weaker in comparison. We've not seen really anyone get stuck here out of the... Charlton. Charlton are the only Championship club, I think, and they were relegated in the first season, possibly? Yeah, so that's why they're a 1-star reputation club, local. That really destroys you. When you go down out of this top flight, the top 6 tiers of English football, It almost automatically destroys you. If we look at Charlton's attendances at the Valley, it's not good. But it's still very good for non-league, to be fair. But compared to the capacity, which is... I don't even know. What is the capacity? Where's it say? Oh, there, 27,000. They're getting 8,000. And they're not in a good position financially. So Charlton are an unrecognisable club, really. There's probably other clubs that were relegated in that first season. If we just go back to the very first season, Cardiff were also relegated. And yeah, they've not managed to get out. It's destroyed them. Half a star reputation. That's what happens, though. If I loaded all the lower leagues, then it might be a little bit different. But without the lower leagues loaded, it just destroys your club. So Charlton have done well to get out of trouble after that point. If we look at the National League North, Huddersfield, similar story, half-star, obscure. Do they still have their stadium? They do. I mean, £1 million rent per year for the John Miff Stadium. 24, that is just... They're broken. Obviously, we can't see their games in the league, but this is probably just automatically filling the stadium because of their history. 23,000 people turning up for the second qualifying round of the FA Cup. So that's probably just automatically set that. We look at their fund. They've got tons of money. This is really interesting. So the game destroys the club's reputation, meaning they can't really get out of the lower leagues, but it keeps them money. That must be some sort of weird bug because they've still got a sugar daddy in charge and they've still got £83 million, probably because of all these parachute payments or something coming in. And obviously we're a long way down the line. However, the game has kind of frozen them in their previous state but kept them in the lower leagues. If they got promoted again, it would probably reset them and they'd have similar things to Charlton. So that's quite interesting. I hadn't really known that before because obviously they're not paying wages, as you can see, all greyed out players. But yeah, no, that's quite intriguing. Barnsley as well in a similar position. They won't have as much money because they're a championship club. Oh, they've still got plenty, haven't they? Still got plenty of money. Right then, it's 2035. We'll have a look at all the cup competitions because I didn't look at that in 2030. And Ballon d'Or and that sort of thing as well, because we might see a Southport player feature, for example. Now, part 4, the next video, will be the last part of this experiment. And I'm going to zoom into the future. We're probably going to go 20 years into the future and see how the landscape of English football has changed. And I imagine, the top 4 currently will be dominating, but we might still see the likes of Farsley up there, Dorking, etc., which is the case at the moment in 2035. West Ham have made it back to the top flight, but it's not that dissimilar to 5 years ago, really. If you just look at the recent winners, runners-up and third place, it's still the teams that you would expect, but we've still got Farsley up there. We've still got Dorking, Southport, Kettering, Barnet, Wealdstone, Gateshead. Concord Rangers seem to have turned into a yo-yo club, going up and down between the Premier League and Championship. Plymouth likewise. Look at that. That is, proper yo-yoing about. Burnley have made it back to the Premier League, but been relegated this season. So yeah, it's pretty intriguing, really, what's happened. We'll just have a quick look at the stadiums again. So there's a few new ones, I think. Southport, they've expanded to 23,072. We're also still playing at Vicarage Road. I mean, are they a permanent fixture there now? Are they not building a new stadium? Let's just look at their facilities. Yeah, I just think they're ground share, and I don't think they're building a new one. So they're just going to play at Watford Stadium. Watford, where are they? Oh, I can't click on Watford. There's Watford. So they're in the Championship. So Wealdstone are a better team. Watford have been going up and down between the Championship and League One. So if we just look at the attendance record for Watford, for example, against Wolves, 21,000, 16,000, 16,500, and compare it with Wealdstone, who against Man City, 17,000, maybe the average attendance is slightly higher than Watford, looking at that, but there are some games where it's a lot lower. Anyway, Farsley, the most successful team from the non-traditional Premier League clubs. They've done well. There was just that 1 year outside the top 10, and other than that, they've really been very consistent. And this year, finishing 5th in qualifying for the Euro Cup. That's brilliant for them. So who else? Dorking Wanderers have done well. Virgil van Dijk is in charge of the club. He's also been in charge of Plymouth, Chester, Telford, and the under-18s assistant manager at Kettering. He's now 44 years old. and in charge of Dorking in the Premier League, which is brilliant. He's probably got plenty of money to spend. Yep, he does. And they've done pretty well. They've survived in the Premier League the whole time. I mean, they've had some shaky moments. They finished 17th, but in recent times they've started to climb up and obviously finished 7th this year, which is really good for them. Southport, obviously they managed to win the Premier League before, didn't they? They won it twice after winning the Championship in 2020. Haven't won anything else. They've dropped down a bit. I mean, they were consistently in the top 5, top 6. Suddenly dropped. Rose back for a little bit, but yeah, 9th the last 2 seasons. Still top 10, very good. Kettering, they've lost their manager, 4-star reputation team. Obviously not happy at only finishing 10th. They were runners-up in the Premier League once, and they have won the FA Cup, which is really good. They might be the first team to have done that. We'll have a look at the FA Cup in a second. In a few minutes, actually. Well, we'll look through the leagues first. So that's what's happened in the Premier League in recent years. I'll just quickly show you the last 5 seasons, and you can pause it if you're interested. If there's anything that you spot that I don't shout out, remember to stick it in the comment section below, as always. Let's go down to the Championship then. These are the most recent winners, runners-up and playoff winners in the past few seasons. This is what has happened. So Blythe relegated to League One, you'll have spotted there. Watford relegated to League One, West Ham getting promoted this season. Burnley went up, Curzon Ashton, so they did make it back to the Championship but have been relegated again. And so have Slough. They've just about survived that season, but got relegated again this year. I wonder if they still have all the money. Let's have a quick look. So yeah, still loads of money. I think the wage budget has declined, but they've got so much money, but they should be in the Premier League with that sort of money. I guess the reputation spoils them a bit. Most recently then, Rotherham back in the top flight, so they have definitely jumped around a bit. Oh no, only the last 2 seasons they were consistently in the Premier League until getting relegated last year, and now they're back in the top flight. So Rotherham have turned into a strong team, haven't they? There's their facilities. Tonbridge also going up. So they started in the Premier League and have really been, I'm going to say it again, yo-yo club between the Premier League and Championship over the last few years. Be nice if they can stay in the top flight for a little bit. Let's have a look at their finances. Plenty of money, 73 million I think that is, if I'm reading that correctly. And Wolves are back in the top flight. So they did actually spend 1 year in the Premier League before getting relegated again. Chris Wilder now in charge. He's moved around a hell of a lot, hasn't he? Look at that. Blackburn Rovers relegated. Watford still in the Championship bit. Everton stuck in the Championship with Brighton as well, another real-life Premier League team. They've not managed to get promoted. Everton have also failed to get promoted to the Premier League. So there might be a few teams that turn into Championship clubs here, or even worse possibly. Down to League One, Leicester are back up to the Championship. So they've really zoomed up the leagues. Yeah, we'll have a look at them in a second. These are the most recent seasons. And Chelmsford relegated to League Two. It's a sorry sight. Lots of the teams that started sort of in the Championship and Premier League getting relegated now down the leagues. But there's a few that are surviving. There's a few that are bouncing back up as well. But most recently, Leicester. A sudden surge from them. 3 promotions in a row. Last year they finished 10th in League One and back in the Championship. I think Adam Barrett has been in charge for all that time as well. No, he hasn't. Where was Adam Barrett before? I've seen him around a bit. Yeah, he's moved around a hell of a lot. He's in charge of England at one point, and now he's got Leicester promoted back to the Championship. But yeah, that was after all those years getting stuck. Suddenly, first. Amazing. Still a 3-star reputation team as well. So maybe they're going to go back up to the top flight after all. Leeds stuck in League One. Norwich have risen up as well, haven't they? Yeah, a couple promotions recently. Leeds also with a couple promotions in recent years. So there's a few teams that are starting to climb back up. And Middlesbrough. Yeah, suddenly those teams stuck in the National League North and National League have zoomed up a bit. Oxford City, who started in the Premier League, a League One team now. So that's okay. It's better than they were. You know, they're in the National League South at the start. So to be a League One team is not bad at all. Nigel Adkins in charge, by the way. Blythe, the sorry story of Blythe. Premier League champions in that first year. They only spent 2 years in it before getting relegated. They got back to the top flight, became a Championship club for a while, and now they're going to be in League Two next season. But what sort of finances do they have? 18.6 million, which is a brilliant amount of money for a League Two club next year. Very good wage budget for a League Two club. They just didn't spend their money wisely, did they? I suppose they spent their money at one point building a new stadium. We could do this experiment again and give all the non-league teams really big stadiums. I guess that's a possibility. That might help them. I don't know. Because they won't have to spend money building a stadium, I suppose. But now they're going to have a very good League 2 size stadium, aren't they? Which hopefully will help them if they can get people through the door. And they're not. Look at the attendances. It's not good enough for this level. But, I mean, imagine winning the Premier League. I mean, the fans would be delighted because they won the Premier League. And they're going to be back all the way down in League 2. But it's still better than where they were. And they've got a Premier League title to shout about. And not many teams can say that. League 2 then. These are the most recent winners, runners-up and playoff winners. And third place goes up as well, of course. And the most recent seasons, I'll just quickly skip through. Braintree going up with Blackburn that year. Salford getting promoted. Leicester, that was the year they got promoted. Chelmsford City went up to League 1. Got relegated again, I suppose. And Sheffield Wednesday and Norwich going up. And the most recent season, Birmingham City champions with Telford, Colchester and Notts County also getting promoted. Braintree, they've been up and down, haven't they? They're up in League 1 and now going down to the National League. Port Vale going down with them as well. Salford have moved around a bit. They started in... Well, they were very consistent. They were in League 2 for many, many years before going up to League 1, relegated, and now very close to relegation this season. And there's no really big team stuck here, though, are there? Birmingham, the only team from the Championship, and they've just got promoted. So, the National League, is it going to look not quite so interesting? West Brom and Stoke have most recently got promoted. If we just look at the past winners, that's what's happened in recent years. And we'll quickly just go through and have a look. So that was the year Leeds and Blackburn went up. We then saw Leicester and Norwich go up. Middlesbrough and Sheffield Wednesday went up. Birmingham and Preston went up. And most recently, West Brom and Stoke have escaped non-league. But we've still got Luton, Reading, QPR, Fulham, Hull, Sheffield United, real-life Premier League team still stuck in the National League with Pablo Fornals in charge. And Aston Villa also stuck in the National League. They did get promoted back to this level a couple seasons ago, though. We've got Brentford. There's still loads of sort of Championship League 1 teams in here as well. So it's very different looking league to real life. It's completely different. I mean, Bradford Park Avenue don't look out of place here, but everyone else does. Barrow, I suppose. But yeah, there's a lots of Championship talent in that league. National League North, Doncaster and Peterborough have just got promoted. But I don't think there's any Championship clubs here now. I mean, we've still got some fairly big clubs in Blackpool and Bradford City and Lincoln and Tranmere Rovers, but there's no one really out of place in this league. And lastly, the National League South. We've got Basingstoke winning the league at a canter of Crawley going up. And yeah, likewise, no really big teams at this level now. So let's have a look at the FA Cup. Wow, Concord Rangers have just won it. That's brilliant. So, most recent winners. So, Barnet won it in 2023. They were the first team to really surprisingly win this competition. Since then, we've seen Kettering and Farsley runners-up. And we've also seen Concord Rangers. That's brilliant. I love the fact Concord Rangers have, from Canvey Island, they've won the FA Cup. That's brilliant. Their facilities, by the way, they've built a nice stadium on Canvey Island. Where did they start? They did start in the Premier League. So I think they're the only team that started in the Premier League on this experiment that have won the FA Cup, because Barnet didn't start in the Premier League, did they? They started a bit lower down. Brilliant achievement for Concord Rangers. Very happy for them. Going down to the Carabao Cup then. Barnet also managed to win this competition, remember, beating Chester in the final. They've won it twice. Wealdstone, we've seen quite... Obviously, the first couple seasons, there was no Liverpool, no Man City in the Carabao Cup. But then Wealdstone won it in 2023. Barnet beat Dorking. Dorking reached 2 finals in a row. Guiseley reached a final. Barnet beat Chester in a final. And we've also seen Dorking reach the final. They've lost 3 finals of old Dorking. Unlucky. Most recent one is Liverpool against Spurs. Community Shield then. No surprises there. Leasing.com Trophy. Those are the most recent winners. So Yeovil and Middlesbrough, the last 2 winners of the competition. Curzon Ashton have won it as well. FA Trophy. So it's mainly traditional Football League clubs winning this, because of course it's a non-league trophy. So all these teams are in non-league. And let's have a look at the Champions League. So, Liverpool. done it again. They've won it twice since the last update. Man City and Man United, so complete dominance from the English teams. Unfortunately, we've not seen the likes of Farsley and those sorts of teams reaching the Championship, mainly because they've not qualified in recent years. And this is the Euro Cup. So of course, we did see Farsley reach the Euro Cup final a few years ago. But recently, Chelsea have won it. Arsenal have also finished as runners-up. And Euro Cup 2, forgot about that one. Barnet runners-up against Sevilla. That's a really good achievement. Farsley runners-up as well in 2033. But no one's managed to win it. That's a shame. Super Cup, these are the winners. World Cup, not particularly relevant to this experiment, but there we go. Holland have managed to win it finally. France have won 3 of the last 5. European Championships, Portugal won 3 in a row, remember. Switzerland and Italy, the most recent winners. Let's just have a quick look at the England team. Luis Miguel Ramis in charge of the country now. And these are the top teams in England. So, yeah, top 6. Familiar top 6. But then Farsley and Kettering with 4 stars. And Southport all got 4 stars. Then Newcastle, Gateshead, Barnet, Dorking up there. Good to see. Finances, let's have a look. Turnover. So, Kettering have a bigger turnover than Chelsea. That is brilliant. I love that. Season ticket holders, so we don't have many big stadiums for these teams down here, which is a bit of a shame. Hopefully they'll build bigger stadiums eventually. This is the national team then. So, Concord Rangers goalkeeper is the number 1 goalkeeper for England right now. Trent Alexander-Arnold still playing at the age of 37, moved to Man City. We've got a Gateshead defender, Alex Potter. That's great to see. We've got a Farsley attacking midfielder on the bench. He's 31 years old now. Dorking player, Liam Plummer. Left back, 2 caps for England. A Rotherham player, Sam Whitehead. A Southport player, Louis Hall. And anyone else. That's it at the moment. Let's just have a quick look at the under-21s. This is more interesting. Look at that. So the unfortunate thing is, a lot of these players will get snapped up by Liverpool and Man City, I suppose. Did this guy? No, he started at Arsenal. He's on loan, to be fair, so it doesn't quite count. Yeah, these players are on loan. I thought it might be a bit more interesting. I was hoping that some of these teams would have produced really good youth academies now, but they're actually all just on loan from the big teams. If anything, it's made the big teams, their youth academies stronger because there's less competition. All the other traditional Premier League clubs with good youth academies maybe lower down the divisions, so they can just snap all these players up in their youth and entice them with money. But yeah, all these players are on loan, unfortunately. Oh, this guy plays for Kettering, but he started at Everton. Do any of the teams have good facilities? Superb training facilities and superb. So Kettering have a good youth system and good facilities now, so that's good to see. So some teams have spent their money wisely. It's taken a few years for them to do it. Farsley, excellent youth facilities and excellent training facilities, but only average youth recruitment, so it's going to be harder for them to find players, I suppose. Dorking, maybe a similar story, hopefully. No, just average. They need to spend money on their facilities. Come on, Dorking. Come on, Virgil. Improve the club infrastructure. Well, Golden Ball then. Any surprise winners? I don't think so. In terms of clubs, that's what I'm looking at. No, it's just Man City, Liverpool from the English clubs, and I assume it's the same for World Footballer of the Year and World Player of the Year. There's so many different things, but maybe World Team of the Year we might see a surprise. No, they won't be featuring because Farsley and all those teams have only managed to qualify for the Europa League, which will not be good enough for these players to feature in the World Team of the Year, unfortunately. It's the world rankings at the moment, but I think that's everything we want to look at. So like I said, part 4 will be the last part. I'm going to holiday about 20 years into the future. Just to remind you, if you do want to download this database, there's links in the description below. Whilst you're there, please hit the like button, be much appreciated. But until next time, enjoy FM20, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you very soon.